Okay, now let's just give this a moment and check that I'm going live. Hope you're having a lovely day. Awesome, here we are. So hello, I am Mia and I'm the founder of the Change Foundry, through which I support purpose-driven women in high-stress careers to combat burnout, manage stress and get more balance in their lives, so that they can love their work again and be the partner, the parent, and the person that they really want to be. So today I have a huge treat for you. This is my #1 productivity technique. Now, I don't like to lead with productivity quite often, because when people are feeling very overwhelmed, I don't want them to get the message that you just need to fit more into your life. If you were just being more productive, you could do more. As many of you will know from seeing my other stuff, I'm all about letting things go and making more space for yourself. However, this productivity technique that I'm going to talk to you about today is just genuinely life-changing, and it is such a huge support to any other work that you're doing on combating overwhelm. So this is for you if you ever feel overwhelmed, if you feel like you're juggling all the things, if you feel like you're firefighting and just having to react to things all the time, if you feel quite often like your day is taken up by other people's priorities rather than your own priorities, if there are things that you feel are really important to you and you want to achieve goals regarding, but you can never seem to get to them, and kind of your priorities always go to the back of the queue. And if you feel that you never kind of get any space for reflecting or big picture thinking, or for focusing on kind of big projects, if you kind of never get round to the important things and you're always like doing the urgent things and feeling very busy all the time, well, this is for you. So here's the thing: if you don't control your schedule will control you. And so this is why my #1 tip for productivity techniques is called time blocking. And honestly, it's brilliant. Now, my experience with time blocking and scheduling in general is quite varied. I'm 44 now, nearly 45, and throughout my whole life, I have been literally the worst person at keeping any kind of schedule or diary or calendar. I absolutely lay down the gauntlet and challenge you that nobody is as bad as I used to be at doing this kind of thing. I used to get all enthusiastic about it. I've had wall calendars, I've had online calendars, I've had diaries, and I'll start them, and then what will happen is I'll put loads of stuff in there and then I'll never look at it again, which is kind of fundamental when you're trying to use some sort of schedule. I was also someone who would always have lots of to-do lists. I loved like writing everything out of my brain onto a to-do list and like starting to like diligently cross things off. But firstly, I never seemed to get down to the important things, no matter how much I crossed off. And secondly, quite often those to-do lists would just, the stuff got out of my head onto a to-do list, and then the to-do list would likely as not be found on the floor with a footprint on it, and I'd just forgotten about it, and I'd forgotten the important things that I needed to do. And then I discovered time blocking, and for some reason, time blocking and the actual process of putting time blocking into place, which is such a valuable exercise in itself, as I will describe, this somehow latched into my brain like no other productivity or scheduling technique has before. And it is not an exaggeration to say that it has completely changed my life. I'm not saying that it always works and it's always perfect, but it's a really easy thing to keep coming back to when you go kind of fall off the wagon. And what it's allowed me to do is just get real clarity on what I'm spending my time on. get real clarity on how to fit in the things that are important to me and to keep to that. And I'll talk a bit more about the benefits later. I mean, honestly, it's amazing. So please do listen through. I've brought this up today because I know this isn't the case for all of you, but for many of you, you're kind of getting into the Christmas period. Things will start slowing down in the next couple of weeks if they haven't already. And then there's that kind of like lull over Christmas, and then you get going again in January. And so this is sort of the perfect time to be doing this. It will be even easier for you. It's a good time for anyone, like any time is a good time to start time blocking. But if you're going into a lull, it will just make it even easier for you, which is why I'm doing this today. So pretty much every very, very successful person that you can think of will be using this technique. And Cal Newport, who is the the author and the owner, I guess, of books such as Deep Work, he suggests that a 40-hour work week, which is structured using time blocking, has the same effect as a 60-hour unstructured work week. So you can literally be doing 2/3 of the work for the same effort. And just to be clear at this point, this doesn't just have to be used for your work life, it can be used for your personal life as well. I, in fact, block all my time, and don't freak out at the thought of that just yet. I know it's a big step for some people, but we'll get into it now. So what is time blocking? So essentially, time blocking is when you divide your day into blocks of time, and each of those blocks is going to be spent on a specific task or a specific group of tasks. And you make the decision about how your week is going to look. I do a session on a Sunday evening to plan my week ahead, although I have a lot of like patterns in place now, so it doesn't sound as difficult as it's not as difficult as it might sound. But you could do that at the end of the day on Friday or first thing of the day on a Monday, and you plan your week out with these time blocks. And the important thing is to stick to them. Obviously, stuff comes up. You don't have to be super rigid, but the idea is to have some sort of intentional structure in place. Now, basically, what's really different about it is that you have a concrete structure for each day and for your week ahead, rather than an open-ended to-do list that you're just pulling things from. And one really important distinction, which kind of sounds weird, but there's been plenty of research done on it, and so it's true, is that what you do is, if you say, okay, on Monday from 9 till 10, I'm going to work on the quarterly report, because that's what you've decided is the best thing to do with that hour. When you get to the end of that session at 10 o'clock, if you haven't finished the quarterly report, you still stop and go on to your next time block and do whatever you need to do in your next time block. Now, this isn't the way that we're traditionally taught to think about things. We're like, I need to do the quarterly reports, so I'm going to work on it until it's done. But they have done all this research on this, and when I say they, I mean there are huge corporations using time blocking to make their staff more productive. When you stick to what you say, they have actually proven that you are actually more efficient and you get more done than if you are just working your way through a to-do list. And I think that what happens when you start time blocking is, you get a lot better at estimating how long things are going to take. And also, I think we've all experienced this. If you say, I'm going to spend an hour on your quarterly report, you're going to make some decisions in that hour about how good it needs to be, right? You're not going to do like every bell and whistle. You're going to be like, blimey, I've only got an hour. Like, right, I don't need to do that bit. And you kind of make it fit into the time that you have given it. Whereas if you say, I'm going to do the quarterly report however long it takes, well, guess what? It'll probably take 3 weeks and you still won't be happy with it. So it kind of works in all different ways to kind of make you more productive. So the benefits of doing this are that you have to make less choices in the moment because you've been very intentional about what you're going to do throughout your week. It's much easier to do focused, deep work because you've said, right, I'm going to focus for 2 hours on such and such a thing, and I know that emails and all that busy work, I've got a slot later between 2 and 3 to work on that. So you're less likely to just start being reactive in the moment. What else have I got here? You really ensure that the things that are really important to you are in there. So when I first started time blocking, I filled my week out with the things I normally do. And then I was like, well, no wonder I never get this important goal that I have for myself done, or no wonder I don't do this strategic thing. There's literally no time in my week to do it. And just doing the action of making the schedule kind of made me really reevaluate how I spend my time. It puts a limit on busy work. How often have you gone into your emails and just found yourself still in your emails 3 hours later and you haven't done the quarterly report or the important things that you need to do? It's really easy to get sucked into busy work. And if you say to yourself, right, I'm going to spend an hour answering emails, you generally are a lot better at answering things a lot more efficiently because you've put that limit on yourself. It also, as I've sort of mentioned already, reduces your tendency to perfectionism, and you get a lot better at kind of saying, well, what is good enough? How can I finish this thing off in less time, instead of just getting into a cycle of trying to do as much as humanly possible. It creates such a huge amount of awareness about how you spend your time and how you are dividing your time between what's important, what's urgent, what are actually other people's priorities. It gives you a much better strategic view of what you're trying to do. And I'll talk about this in a minute, but the very act of putting this together the first few times is unbelievably revealing. And it really, truly helps you to achieve your goals, because rather than having this kind of nebulous, oh, I'd really like to have done this in 6 months' time, it's like, I'm now putting the time for that specific thing into my calendar. So how can this work for you on a practical basis? I just want to say at this point that obviously this lends itself very well to people who have an office job, who are in the office all day, or working from home in the virtual office all day, and who have like meetings and reports to do and different tasks and what have you. Of course, it works very well with that. But no matter what your job is, even if, like, let's say you're a medical professional and large parts of your day are taken up with ward rounds or whatever, like seeing patients or what have you, there are always parts of your day that time blocking can really help with. And if you're not in work at all, or if it just doesn't fit with your kind of work, you can use it in your personal life too, which I'll talk about in a second, because I know it feels a bit weird to do that. So how do you get started with time blocking? Well, before you get started, I would actually do some sort of exercise in noting down for yourself what it is that you want to achieve, whether that's at work, at home, like in your personal life with your family, what have you. What are the really important things for you to do? And of course, there's a bunch of stuff you have to do. It would be wonderful if we all went, well, I'm not just going to look at my emails ever again, but obviously that's not, it's not possible. So start by writing down with broad, like high level strokes, all the things that you need to do and that you want to do, and the things that you would love to fit in but you aren't able to, and really getting to the bottom of what's very important for you. And I mean really important for you, truly important for you, is really key. If you're a person that feels like, I never have any time for myself, put that in there. If you feel like you're not being the parent you want to be, well, what are the important things? What specifically the important things that would mean you were being a good parent? What are those things? And put those on the list. And then you are going to block them into your day. Now, this can take a bit of time. I'm going to be completely honest with you. It took me a while the first time, but you know what? It doesn't have to be perfect. Just whack it in there as best you can. The very act of doing your first time blocking exercise will tell you so much. You'll suddenly be like, well, I literally cannot fit in this very important thing to me because I'm too busy doing all of these meetings and all of these things that other people have asked me to do. Now, you're not going to be able to change that overnight, possibly. Maybe you are. Some things are going to take you time to change, and there's going to have to be more saying no to things. But that's such important information that will help you so much to know that. So do that first session of kind of blocking out your week. Just try 1 week. Know that it's not going to work out for this first week. Just know it and be okay with that. And then you're just going to give it a go and see what happens. And every day that you try and follow your schedule, you're going to learn more, because you're going to be like, oh, I totally forgot that I actually need to eat lunch and cook the dinner for my family and stuff. That was my classic. I was like, oh yeah, I actually need to, cook food. And I literally put those things into my day. As I said, I do a session for the following week on a Sunday evening. That's just what I like to do. You can do it on a Monday morning, a Friday afternoon before you leave work, and then put yourself in, but calendar that as well. Put that in your calendar or else it won't happen, And then put a little bit of time in at the end of every day to just have a reflect and see how it went today. Were you able to follow the time blocking? If not, why not? And then maybe change the next day to kind of readjust, especially if you spent 1 hour on the quarterly report expecting to finish it and you didn't. So actually now you do need to put some time in tomorrow. It's fine to be flexible. But what you will discover is it's so magical. Over the next few weeks, you will get into a real rhythm with things. You won't have to create your week from scratch every week, because you will start putting things in at certain times and you will start putting things in on the regular. And so you will have a basic structure around which to fit in the things that come up. It's fine to leave some space in your calendar if you need it, but just be a bit aware of leaving lots of space and kind of letting yourself off the hook in terms of really like planning out what you're doing and kind of being more in control of your schedule and not allowing other people to be in control of your schedule. But you can make it work for you. And as I said, I do actually schedule my personal time as well. And it's not like, right, from 7 till 7:15, I am going to sit and have a cup of tea in the evening or whatever. It's not like that. I just have some personal goals for myself that I really want to reach, and I make sure that I give time to those. And just to say, if you're feeling resistance at this point and you're just like, I don't like this idea of scheduling things, particularly not my personal life, I like to be spontaneous and this feels like really restrictive and I don't like this, I hear you. I am the cheerleader for spontaneity. I hate routine and I've always resisted it. But particularly since I had my son, actually, I just came to realise that, in fact, some routine gives you so much freedom. It takes away the constant decision making that you have to do, and it makes space for the things that are really important to you. A huge amount of spontaneity actually means that you end up not doing what you want to do. And we don't want that, do we? So I would really invite you to try it. Know that just because it's written on your calendar doesn't mean you can't change it. It's not, like you're going to get electrocuted because you haven't done it. It's your calendar. You can change things. But routine can give you so much freedom, I promise you. Give it a go. What have you got to lose? I would also really recommend that, and I'm saying this kind of as a thing you can work on over time. This is not something that I did like from week one, but I do put pretty much everything into my calendar these days, down to, what bins do I need to take out on a Wednesday evening so that on Thursday morning I'm not like, oh crap, I can hear the bin men, like I didn't do it. What the hell? Sorry, my computer just went a bit mad. What the hell bin is it? And I'm like on the Sheffield Council website, go, which bin is it today? And I've got that in. I know it sounds so like prosaic, but you know what? Now I don't have to think about the fact that I need to do the bins and what colour it is. And frankly, I'd rather not be thinking about that. I've got much more interesting things to think about. I put my period into my calendar. If you're still menstruating, I really recommend it. Then it doesn't take you by surprise. When you're planning things, you can kind of plan a bit around how you're likely to be feeling on those days. I just recently had to do all my like car insurance and house insurance and all of that stuff. So that's now in the calendar for next year, so it doesn't take me by surprise and I don't leave it to the last minute. Now, I didn't sit there one day and think of everything in my whole life that I needed to put in my calendar. I just put it in as stuff comes up. And now my calendar is really well rounded with everything that's going on in my life. The other thing is, when new opportunities come up, you can look at what you've got going on and say, yes, I really want to bring this into my life. Or you can look and go, that sounds really fun, but actually I'm really trying to work on being a better parent at the minute. And if I do this new opportunity, it's going to take time away from that. So that, if that makes sense. Another thing that's just popped into my head is when you're working for someone else in a busy office, perhaps, you might be sitting here thinking, well, Mia, this is all very well, but I constantly get last minute meeting requests and, this schedule will never work. Firstly, I invite you to think how it could work within the limitations that you're currently operating. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can kind of make this work for yourself. But also when you see how disruptive these kind of interruptions and last minute requests and essentially what's happening is someone else is prioritizing your schedule for you. You're scheduling around someone else's priorities. And I've realized that sometimes that has to happen, but it gives you a lot more motivation to say, well, actually, this isn't working for me. And it makes it a lot easier for you to create and maintain boundaries. And you've actually got evidence. You can start saying to people, I really need to focus on this project every Wednesday afternoon. So could you move that meeting to another time, or can I be excused from that meeting, or someone else can go, or can you just send me notes, or whatever it is. Right. That's lots of information about time blocking. I hope that's useful. If you have any questions at all, let me know in the comments, because I'm evangelical about this one. This is one of the most effective things you can do for your productivity and to reduce overwhelm. As I say, I was literally the worst person at doing this stuff. So if I can do it, you can do it. So if you need any tips or support on doing this, let me know. That's all for this week on Boss Your Week, and I will see you again at 12 p.m. GMT next Monday. Have a great week.